Nort Johnson just asked me a very, very good question. So, we're going to throw that question out to our listeners and see if we get an answer. No. Nort is with us today from the Faribault Chamber office. He's with the tourism department. He's also involved in the Mainstreet program. He gave a terrific report on Faribault tourism to the city council last night, so I asked Nort if he would repeat that for our listeners here on AM Minnesota, and Nort so graciously said sure. How cool is that? Thanks, Nort.
Happy to come and visit with you,
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Council meeting last night was good. It was good information to share. You should tune into those, by the way.
We're going to touch on that here shortly, the report.
Awesome.
So I don't have to tune in because you're here giving me the report today.
Perfect. So are we going to...
Plus I read the report.
It's a good report. It is.
It's a very good report.
So you're shying away from the comment right off the chute was that question that we posed. Put it out there.
Really? You want people to answer?
I absolutely think so. I owe people come to our region to go up north.
Yeah.
Most people around here up north is
Alexandria or Bemidji or Brainerd or
exactly. So
Walker.
So where do Alaskans go when they go up north?
That's the question, folks. Where do Alaskans go? I guess they don't go north.
They live north.
They come south. Right?
I would suppose.
Now I've been told. Have you ever been fishing in Florida or Texas or any place like that?
I fished in the Gulf off of Florida a couple of times.
It's good fishing.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of line you put out there when you're fishing.
Oh, so I've been told there's good fishing in Florida, but I've never done it.
I've had the blessing to get into the Gulf a couple of times.
Okay. We know there's good fishing around here. The fishing opener is this weekend. That's why I bring that up.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is good fishing around here, and we've got that muskie lake out there, and that's the muskie fishing is a pretty big deal.
It really is right now. It's getting really hot.
People travel for that. I mean, that's important. And we also have, bass fishing here is great. We do have all species. But the bass fishing is also one of those things that people travel for and do tournaments.
So you can catch a nice walleye here in the Faribault area.
And I've done it, absolutely. And get a half a bucket of panfish to fill the fry daddy for the picnic, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, making me hungry here, Nort. So what did the council do on the bench installation agreement that you guys, Mainstreet's involved?
They passed that agreement, and so that hard-working Mainstreet group is going to go ahead and complete another 19 or 20 design options for Faribault-related stories. Our sample bench is the Flex Brewery story. That's actually sitting out at the chamber. Our first sample bench is right now. If anybody wanted to view that, it's really nice, and I think the idea that we're actually manufacturing them locally is that's dear to my heart. We've got MRG Manufacturing in Mercury, Minnesota, doing the fabrication and the powder coating.
Cool.
And Brushworks Signs is doing the design work and actually outputting the story decal that fits onto the customized back of the bench. So locally made benches, privately sponsored or privately funded effort to enhance Mainstreet. So the city's stake in the game with regard to any financials just has to do with some labor to help install the benches. But the actual construction and even a maintenance fund for those benches is being taken care of by private donors into the Mainstreet organization.
How many benches are we talking?
We're starting out with 20. That's give or take 1 or 2 depending on how we do on sponsorship sales. And we have some predetermined locations right now. There's some strong feelings about adding locations. And we had a Mainstreet board meeting this morning, and a lot of the conversation around benches in front of the buildings where they most certainly do get used. Currently we're taking the safe approach to get this project started, which is on the street corners where we have already the fencing, the right angle fencing at the intersections. using that as a backstop for the benches. Nice place to sit, observe what's going on. Exactly what you're talking about. I hit that over 50 mark a couple years ago. So.
I did a volleyball, little volleyball up at church.
Okay.
A couple of years back, probably 5, 6 years ago now. And I remember doing a running back on a ball, looking above, you know, the ball coming over my shoulder, which would be a normal move in the past. All of a sudden, I'm dizzy, and I'm like, wow.
I know just what you mean. I played ball when I was a kid.
Sure.
And mid-40s, late 40s, I played league for a summer in softball. It wasn't baseball anymore. And so I'm doing a little second base action. And, you know, that ground ball, you can reach it, you know, if you put just that little get down and slide a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
To get to the ball. And I used to, well, I was never a fantastic ball player, but I used to at least not crumple up into a pile when I'd go down and dive to try to get something. I gave that a shot, and I wish somebody had that on video. I think it probably looked like I got shot and just crumpled when I tried to go down and get that ball off to my left. But yeah, something changes a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing. So anyway, they got this hydraulic lift thing that would be perfect for changing that bowl.
You bet. You know, they use a lot of those when they're doing some of that restoration work on Main Street downtown on Central Avenue. You see those lifts doing the thing when they get going on the tuck pointing like they're doing on your building.
Yeah.
So had some great discussions about that downtown, our historic downtown.
I'll bet you have.
So you know, there's some action happening on buildings again right now, with some changing ownership.
Yep, the council, I see, approved that too last night, the Eastman building, right?
Yep. So that's, and all these little pieces come together, you know, to help move forward. The dynamics have changed so many times about a downtown, and you have to take advantage of every opportunity you have. You know, we had Samantha Dopp here from Hartman Insurance here when we talked about the hometown holidays, and she made a very, very good observation. She said, you know, Nort, it's going to be a pretty tough road if we're going to try to get our old downtown. When we all think of what we were endeared to for downtown, right? That's when we had, you know, the Leader and Oaks, and we had the pharmacy, and you had a hardware store, and the idea that somehow that's going to come back.
5 and 10, 5 and dime.
The 5 and dime. We had Jupiter and Woolworth downtown, right? I remember both of those. A couple of bakeries, but that's the business dynamics changed to the point where that's not going to happen. But yet we've got this awesome, historic, beautiful downtown. And as she described it to me, and it certainly made sense, what we have here is an outstanding event space, and it is. What a great backdrop, and we do have fantastic food and nightlife options in our downtown, along with, we still have some great retail. It's not to the extent and the diversity that it once was, but some of those things that we can do and are doing to help the viability of downtown is using it as an event space to help cause exposure for existing businesses. So if you come down, for example, for a car cruise nights, and you see the salons, or you see that other restaurant, or you see that there's a genuine hometown jewelry store. You remember those things, and you'll come back. So causing traffic downtown by using it as an event space, it's a very important tactic. And we're stepping up some efforts this year. Try to supersize our downtown car cruise nights. We're going to have 5 events this year. Do you do the car cruise nights at all?
No, Michael Eiler does the...
Yeah, Mike comes and does our DJing, MCing work for us.
Does a super job cranking out those 50s and 60s tunes.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having him back this year.
Maybe some 70s too, I guess, because that's when we grew up, but those are antiques now.
They are antiques. Yeah, that's one of those first signs of aging, right? When you find your music on the oldies channel.
Yeah, well, not only that, but you go to the car shows and you really like the tunes. And,
yeah.
Yeah, I do some work over at the Rose Fest car show, spinning tunes there. So
Rose Fest, that's Kenyon, right?
Yep. Yep.
Nice.
I've done some others too over the years, but
Nice.
So, always a lot of fun. Now, we were talking about the benches, Nort, before we went to break.
Yes, we were.
So I wanted to get back to that.
Sure.
Because I wanted to get a better description here. You said these are story benches?
Story benches. So the backrests on the benches will have historic images, and then there's going to be a brief description of what those images are from and how they translate to Faribault's history. Pauline Schreiber, long-time journalist in the city of Faribault, is actually doing the short stories for us.
Okay.
And we've got the bench committee, and that's actually Peggy Kylan from Faribault Air, and Anne Melier from Brushwork, and Sue Garwood from the museum, myself. We've had Jenna Viscomi comes to the table with that. Have helped laid the whole idea out, and are doing some of this story picking the images and etc.
So images will be on the back. There'll be a plaque on the back that has this little story on it.
Correct, and it's so just for perspective, the sample bench we did was 6 foot wide. The backrest is 1.5 foot tall, 18 inches, and the image area on that is probably 4.5 feet wide, and then it's got some contours and some shapes to make circles or semicircles around the tops of the photos. Very stylish. The photos are historic looking. They're sort of that brown and sepia toned. They look really neat, and then we've got a great font that we're doing the short stories in about what's on the bench. And of course, private sponsorship for these. There'll be a 6x9 placard in the corner of the back of the bench that'll, for who's sponsored and actually paid for this bench and this amenity to be shown and used downtown.
How much is the bench?
It's a $2,000 sponsorship for a 5-year period. That will include the manufacture of the bench, and we'll maintain a maintenance fund in the amount of $500 for each bench.
$500 a year.
Yep. Yep.
To sponsor for 5 years.
400.
Or I mean 400. I'm sorry.
5 times, yes.
Yeah.
400 a year. That's for a year-round sponsorship, and for something that we know will get used. They're very attractive, and definitely a nice addition to the downtown, both in the functionality of a bench to sit on.
These are benches, or are they going to have some cushion to them, or?
Benches, but they're contoured comfortably. They're a super heavy-duty park bench.
Okay. And I would assume the Fleck Brewery one's going to go by Fleck.
Well, we think perhaps the State Bank with their Flex, they've got this great display inside the State Bank honoring the Flex
Metcon guys, you come in my window.
Oh, there they come.
Yep.
Give them a wave. Give them a wave. So, good project, and I think it's an example of one of those small but important things that can come together by a group of volunteers that are going to enhance and beautify our downtown for years to come. So.
I was just thinking of the trust involved in that hydraulic system.
Oh, okay. You're still on the guys outside. Go ahead. Go ahead and step out. I can take. Which buttons do I push? I can get us to commercials.
So 20 benches in the downtown, all in the downtown area.
Yes, that's
right?
that's the first. Call it the first wave. Certainly, we'll look for feedback and see how that goes.
10 on each side of the street.
It'll be more or less that. Yes. There's some corners that aren't suitable based on fire hydrants or certain contours or other.
Well, that'll work out good for the parades that we have too,
Absolutely. Absolutely. The parades, folks who just doing the walk, enjoying the buildings, want to take a rest at a corner. Sometimes when my honey is shopping, I don't necessarily
want to go with her.
Well, I love to go along. I really enjoy being along. That's important to me. But sometimes when they get into certain stores or certain sections of stores, I find it a good time to go maybe check my email or something.
Yeah, like women's wear or something like
that. Well, the women's wear I kind of like that. But no, housewares. But but no, finding a spot to sit down and take a little break while others do their thing. It's good. There's a reason that there are benches in malls outside stores.
Oh, sure, of course. No, this makes perfect sense. It really does.
Yeah.
And I could envision, when we talked during the break, MRG, Mercury, making these benches for other cities. These story benches, I could see them taking off in other cities.
I think they could as well. And certainly this story will get picked up on by the Minnesota Preservation Alliance.
Well, tourism folks, our magazine, you'd think they'd want to do a piece on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, if we got good at that, that could be a fundraiser for our Main Street program, perhaps, and also put a few shekels in the pockets of a couple of our local manufacturers.
So when are we going to see these benches downtown?
It'll be this summer. We'll get them out. The main thing is going to be right now that we've got the blessing with this agreement to move forward. We'll continue putting the stories together, and then the stories fit into the designs with the photos, and then onto the benches.
So if I wrote you out a check for $4,000, that would take care of 10 years?
Yes, it would. Or 2 benches for, yeah. Absolutely. So is that from the Mighty 920? Is that going to be from you personally?
Well, I can't commit money for them. They would.
Okay.
I'd be out of a job, and then I couldn't afford anything.
You know, that there's an opportunity maybe for a story. I mean, how long has KDHL been a fixture in Faribault?
Well, of course, 1948 went on the air. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, so that's and continues to be. So that's a little part of history too. That could be fun.
Most definitely. Let's touch on this tourism report.
Yeah, the tourism report.
Something we talked about yesterday. I'm very curious. You know, we talked about this. There's no clear set definition for a millennial.
For a millennial,
I didn't know this till I looked it up.
It's, you know, it's, while it's a little bit broad, if you took all the definitions that you described that yesterday, some of them that you looked up, if you overlapped those and came up with what's common on those, you're going to find basically people between 24 and 32 years of age, and that's from the age perspective of it.
Pew Research says 18 to 34 in 2015.
Okay.
Urban Dictionary says born from 1982 to 94. Merriam-Webster says person born in their 80s or 90s. Wikipedia says early 80s to 2000. I think you get my drift there.
Yeah. Yep. You got the basic gist of the age of the demographic. I think what we pay attention to somewhat on the age of the demographic, but more than that, the attitudes and the patterns of the millennials. As we know, I mean, things that we know in general about the millennials is they travel more than their ancestors have.
We're talking travel abroad.
We're talking local travel. We can travel 5 overnight trips a year.
Okay.
And that's important. We also know that they're looking for experiential travel. They're not quite the museum crowd. They want to go get, not necessarily on a roller coaster, but do something that is an experience. Cuisine, by the way, is becoming an experience.
Yeah, I see it's number 2 on your list here of why people travel.
Absolutely.
And we've got lots of great cuisine here.
Oh, Faribault's just dynamite. I mean, and we had that conversation twice in the last 2 weeks with visitors. We're absent some of the recognizable chain restaurants, you know, Chili's, Red Lobster, but I'll tell you what.
I personally like it better to have just the local flavor.
Absolutely, and you just even run around just the downtown district here with the El Rancho is up and going. They're dynamite. Food at Bernie's, Signatures, Depot, Al's is still, you know, they got an award for an iconic lunch stop for the state, and fantastic commercials there in lunch
Plaza.
Grand Plaza, the little place near the Daily News. I'm embarrassed. La Flor de Jalisco, also very good Mexican food. And we've got other offerings. We've got the First to Thai and also Mizuki Fusion, both high quality Asian food. I mean,
and
very
Bashers
good.
with their famous ribs.
Bashers is outstanding. My old high school friend Brenda, it was Brenda Tuesnot, Brenda Roach now has been there
Yeah.
forever in the lunch crowd. I had the blessing to run into her just a couple of weeks ago when I stopped out there for a little lunch meeting. And man, yeah, just good food. So these one-offs. We also have, we in our guide we call them the familiar favorites. You know, the your restaurants that you'll find in other places. The Perkins, Country Kitchen, and some of our fast food joints. They all seem to execute pretty good here because they know the competition it's stiff here because so many places do such a good job.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm sorry if I missed anybody's favorites, but
yeah.
As my witness, I'm not working off of a list.
No, he's doing
no,
on top
I'm
of
just
his-
doing some things
off
that I
of his
remember.
bald
But
head, like my bald head. It says here,
okay.
number 1 on your list of what do people travel for? I'm assuming this is by order, right? Sightseeing.
Sightseeing, that came up on our locally conducted survey. That's what our Faribault residents currently, number 1 reason they're traveling, the group that we surveyed was sightseeing. Well, and that translates, I think, a little different for some people. I know that a few of them just indicated just basically road trip. Just, you know, go for the drive, see what I see. And we know that that's, I'm personally very fond of that. I'm sort of go the back roads, find that place you haven't been before, you know.
Fall, I'd love to go look at colors.
The color drives are fantastic around here
And
too.
we are ablaze some falls. Of course, some falls it's not so, you know,
Right.
depends on the year. But
Right.
here in Faribault, you just think about the scene when you cross that viaduct and you look up on the east side.
Absolutely.
When it's ablaze in color.
It's amazing.
So
Last year, I remember visiting last fall. Last year, I think we got a little bit gypped. And I think the colors didn't quite do their thing, and when they did, it was for a pretty short period, but which is not typical. But the scenes still exist all around the lakes here, which we were talking fishing earlier too.
Yep.
Those drives are fantastic.
So there are a lot of things to see in terms of sightseeing here, and I was really happy to see, Nort, when I looked at your report, that you're doing an effort to do a regional marketing, having resources combined of Northfield, Faribault, Owatonna. It makes so much sense.
It does make sense, and we took a little different. It's happened in the past. There's been good cooperation in the past, and I think sometimes what happens when you have a group get together and you're trying to market together, but yet your personal interest is so important. My town.
Right.
We took a little bit different approach with my partners from Owatonna and Northfield, and said, you know, let's take our local town hats off. And we did a strength and weakness analysis. So analysis, in other words, what do we have what's our best foot forward? As 3 towns, what's our best foot forward? And we started developing itineraries and lists of our assets, and wow, you know, from golfing to drives to dining to museums, to other interest points. And if you combine Northfield, Faribault, Owatonna, the retail offering is really, really good.
Yes.
So as a group, we're very, very strong. Rather than put out a message that's, as a group, we're really strong and here's 3 different things, we wanted to come up with a common brand, a common theme, and that's where Mini Road Trip, M-I-N-N-E, spelled like
Yes.
Minnesota or Minneapolis.
I like that.
And my friend Kate over at the Faribault Daily News, who does our creative work for us, did a logo for us. If you haven't seen it, go on miniroadtrip.com, MINNE-roadtrip. And that logo that you'll see of the state of Minnesota with some pretty classic colors and Mini Road Trip on it, it's dynamite, and we've test run that. We were in Iowa at a home show about a month and a half ago, and set up a booth, big banner with this Mini Road Trip, and then breakdown information from our individual towns, along with suggested itineraries that include all 3 towns. Wow. Everybody going by that booth caught that big logo and stopped, gave it a look. We talked to many of them, and better yet, they requested more information. Hey, I need to know more about this. That looks like fun. So we're using that brand for our group travel efforts. Group travel, Gordy, that's attracting buses, Faribault alone, Owatonna or Northfield, each on our own, you can get a full day pretty easily for a tour group, but not necessarily enough to keep them from traveling forward to the cities to get their overnight with the bus. If you combine the three, you've got way more than a day's worth of itinerary. So what happens? The operator looks for a room locally. If that's Northfield, Owatonna, or Faribault, we don't care. That's 50 room nights in one shot. That's also 50 plates of food from a local restaurant for supper, 50 plates of breakfast, 50 more lunches, and 50 people who've become aware of our offering here. They take that back to their families. Hey, I was on the bus tour, and next time you're going to the cities or you're traveling through, make sure you run by that mini road trip area. Make sure you stop by Faribault, which, whatever of our many reasons they felt endeared to us, they'll share that out. So, good strategy. I'm anxious to see how it pans out this year.
Yeah, I think it's excellent as well. Well, as always, we're going to run out of time here. And
well, that was fast.
Didn't get a chance to really tackle this. It was interesting to see that your 2015 lodging tax brought in $101,575.90.
That's 95% of the total of the lodging tax. So the total lodging tax collections were more than that. The city retains 5%. So add another $5,400, give or take, on that.
Another $5,400. Wow.
So for the total revenues, and that's a record for town. So I'll take it.
Of course. Why wouldn't we? So anyway, you can always see this too in the City Council agenda packets online if you're interested in reading the tourism report. Thanks to Nort.
Thanks, Gordy.
Yeah,
always fun to be here. Always fun to be here.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy yourself. That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota on KDHL AM Faribault, Minnesota, Twins Baseball.